Welcome, everybody, to the Table Rush Talk Show. In this episode, I interview the awesome and amazing Pi Venus Winslow. Pi has built a coaching business helping people get past their narcissistic parent upbringings, and she also helps people deal with a narcissistic partner. We dive into how she has built that business, taking the first steps to start and moving past the self-limiting beliefs that can come from a narcissistic upbringing. And of course, we get into what it means to be a narcissist and how those relationships can affect you. And yes, she may have had to move past her own narcissistic habits herself. It's a ton of fun and there's a lot to learn. Listen, and of course, as always, subscribe, follow, look, like, comment, and enjoy. You know when someone is selling from stage and at the end the audience gets up and rushes to the back of the room to buy? That's a table rush. My name is Mischa Z, and the Table Rush Talk Show is all about bringing you the tools, strategies, and tactics that you can use to grow your audience and inspire them to buy. Welcome, everybody, to the Table Rush Talk Show, where I interview people who are growing real businesses to make real money and to serve their customer at the highest possible level. And today I'm here to introduce Pi Venus Winslow, who we can call Pi for short. And Pi's amazing. So Pi helps you help people get over, or I don't know if over is the right word, or sort of work through a narcissistic parent upbringing, a parental upbringing where there's narcissistic parents are involved. And then you help people deal with narcissistic partners. But your main way to do that currently is with a 6-month program that you have. And you do some personal coaching, and you're starting to crush it. So that's very exciting. So there you go, everybody. Well, let's welcome Pi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful welcome.
Yeah, indeed. It's so good to have you here. We were just talking just a few minutes before we got started here, and so I asked you. I said, "Hey, tell me, are you having success? Are you successful at helping people, work through these narcissistic relationships?" And you said, "It was awesome." You said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am. I've started to have, if you don't mind me saying, $10,000 months." And you were very excited about it. And you also said, "Hey, when I started 3 years ago, that was my goal, right? To be able to make money." And I'm going to stop talking here in a second and let you talk. But what I like about the 10,000 a month is that it's a financial metric that we can use to perhaps gauge impact. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, when I first started my business, and it's been about 3 years, I had no idea what I even wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to coach other people. I wanted to inspire other people, but there was a part of me that, was like, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. But I mean, I do know how to encourage people, right? And I have done that all of my life. And I'm a connector. I like to connect people to things that I think will help them. And I like to cheer people on, and I like to help them problem solve. And so to start my journey, I got to take the really big, scary step, the very big, scariest first step ever, especially for me. Okay. Because I grew up in a dysfunctional family. I had an alcoholic father. I have a narcissistic mother. And I basically grew up believing that I didn't have value, that I didn't matter, that nobody cared about me or what I wanted or what I needed, that I was always doing everything wrong, that I was unlovable, that I wasn't smart enough, like a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And this is what happens when you experience long-term emotional and psychological abuse as a child growing up into an adult. These beliefs get deeply entrenched in our subconscious mind, and they creep into our conscious mind, but we'll dismiss them and say, well, yeah, I have this problem, but like it's not important, but it is.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So self-limiting beliefs, right? That is easy to throw around. I hear that terminology thrown around all the time. Like, give me some examples. Like, what were some self-limiting beliefs that you had, that you grew up with, that you had to break through? Am I asking that right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the ones that I just listed. I mean, if you think about it, if you don't believe that you matter, why would you bother learning how to communicate better with other people? If you deeply believe that it doesn't matter what I say, nobody's going to listen to me anyway. You know, so I didn't have good role models. I didn't have somebody to teach me how to navigate the world. You know, I was neglected. I was kind of left to figure it out on my own. And I didn't know how to do a lot of things. And I especially didn't know how to manage my emotional well-being at all. I'd get very overwhelmed. And then I would, I'd kind of freak out. I'd do self-sabotaging things. I would, I wouldn't show up because I was scared, or I'd flake out, or I'd act out in some way. And so there were a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, which kind of reinforced the negative belief system of like, I'm not good enough. But I had to step above that and get to a place, unfortunately, a rock bottom place in a sense, that I really saw that it was up to me to change my life, to learn how to be a healthy adult, to learn how to communicate with other people, to learn how to trust myself, to learn how to trust other people, to open my heart, to take risks, and not to give my power away to other people, my value, my worthiness, not to put that in the hands of other people, but to really own that in my heart.
Can I ask a question again in that? So,
yeah.
When you say give my power to someone, or you just listed three things, you said give my power, and then two other things. Like, can you get a little more granular with that? Like, I like the granular ideas so people can go, oh yeah, like giving away your power, that's super broad. Like,
it is. It
yeah.
can be. Yeah.
So maybe give me, yeah.
So what that would look like, if I think about myself and the things that I would do, it was more important to me that other people approved of me than I was actually approving of myself, or authentically being myself. So I would want to try to morph into whatever I thought somebody else wanted of me. I wanted to make sure everybody else was happy and okay at my own expense. And I would self-sacrifice, and then I would get resentful because I wasn't getting what I was needing. And I didn't ask for what I needed. I just expected other people to know, because I had been trained to be so intuitive to try to figure out how to keep my parents happy. And that was the expectation, that's how I operated in my life with everyone. And when other people are just, they're just walking around living their life, and I'm over here like, I need something. Why aren't you guessing what I need? And then I'm not getting it. And then I'm blaming them. Because I'm not getting what I need.
Yeah.
I'm giving my power to them. My happiness is dependent on them.
Yeah.
Doing something for me.
Yeah. I think let's do this too. Why don't you tell me what a narcissist is? I think that that's of value, right, to anybody listening, because then people might be able to relate and go, oh yeah, maybe my parents are like this, or maybe they could. I mean, we all have a little bit of self-centeredness in us,
Yeah.
but maybe give me a definition of a narcissist.
Yeah. Well, narcissism is, it's a personality disorder, and it's in the diagnostic manual of mental health diseases. It's it's really diagnosed by a professional, and so I don't think walking around and diagnosing people as narcissists is the best idea. But what we can do is we can recognize that it's on a spectrum. People
Yeah.
are complex. We have all kinds of different parts to us and ways of being, depending upon what's going on in our lives. And a narcissistic person lives their life a certain way all the time. Like, so most people down here in the normal range, everybody can be self-centered. Everybody can be selfish. Everybody can tell a lie. Anybody could say, that thing you said happened didn't happen, because they're scared or they don't want to admit they were wrong. But narcissistic people live their life and operate that way all the time. It's their personality. It's their personality. And so narcissistic people don't have empathy for others.
Okay.
They don't have empathy or compassion. They can't relate to the pain and suffering of other people. They don't feel a connection. Like, some people say their hearts are made of stone, right? There's no compassion. There's no empathy there. They will fake it. They will fake it if they need to. But deep down inside, at the end of the day, they don't really feel bad if they hurt somebody. They don't have remorse if they hurt someone. They won't make a genuine apology. They'll do the faux apology. I'm so sorry you're hurt by that, instead of taking responsibility for what actually their part was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they won't admit to being wrong. They're very concerned about how other people perceive them. They want to be smarter. They want to be better looking. They want to have more money. They project a persona. And they're very, very attached to that persona. And they get very angry if you expose them, if you expose their flaws. And they want energy from other people. They're kind of like emotional vampires. So they want people's attention. They want people's admiration. They want people to admire them and consult them. And,
I'm like looking in the mirror right now. I'm like, uh-oh.
but anybody can want those things. But again, like I'm saying, this is their mode of operation. They're like this all the time. And so the difference is that when they're denied the attention, validation, whatever it is that they're seeking from other people, they will become rageful, and they will do things. They will do things to punish that person. They will start a smear campaign against them. They will start telling everybody about your deep, dark, dirty secrets, and they'll manipulate, and they'll use manipulation and control they'll say things to get you upset. They figure out what your buttons are. They push your buttons. And then when you react and you respond and you're upset, they're like, why are you so out of control? Look at how out of control she is. God, can you believe I have to put up with this? I'm so worried about this person. She's so emotional, and it's just like, and the other people are like, wait a minute.
I'm just thinking
it can be very confusing too, because once once that pattern starts, once like the victim starts to question their reality. They're like, did that really happen? Did they really say that? Did they really do that? Maybe I am too sensitive. Am I overreacting? And it's like the narcissist will push boundaries all the time. All the time. They'll see how much more they can get away with, how much more they could get away with. And before you know it, you are in a stew of toxicity. And there's like no escape.
I'm just laughing because I can relate. I'm like, oh my God. I was thinking of a girlfriend that I had.
Yes.
Right?
I think everybody has met this person and
Right.
had engagement with this type of person.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking this is what was interesting. And I actually had this as a question to ask you, but she kind of used this whole narcissist thing as a weapon towards me. She's like, you need to look at this thing about perhaps you're a narcissist. And I'm like, I don't think I am. I think I've got enough self-awareness and some empathy and sympathy and some emotional maturity. But I was like, it's almost like the narcissist weaponized the narcissism thing, right?
Yes.
Like throwing it at me. And I'm sitting there thinking, as you tell me that, I'm like, wait a minute, you're doing all these, everything you're listening out you're doing to me. Anyway, thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening.
That's a tool. That's another manipulation that they use. They project what they're doing onto another person. They say, so if I'm in a relationship, I'm the narcissist, I'm cheating on my partner, I'm going to be grilling my partner all the time. I know you're cheating on me. I need to see your phone. I need to know what you're doing. I need to be tracking you because you're not to be trusted. I saw the way you looked at that person. Meanwhile, I'm the one out there like doing all of those things.
Yeah. That was the number one thing. She's like, I know you have sorry, ex-girlfriend, if you're listening. This is not all naming names. Not naming names, but you know who you are. No, I'm kidding. What was it? There was a lot of this. There was a lot of this, like, oh, you've got this bevy of other relationships waiting in line, and I'm like, actually, no, I don't. But clearly you do, and I had this male mentor friend of mine. And so after we broke up, I was telling him all about this. And he goes, well, let me ask you a question. After you guys broke up, did you immediately jump in a relationship with another person? And I was like, no. And he goes, did you have people waiting in the wings? And I said, no. And he goes, well, there's your answer. So, right. And I was like, oh yeah, that was great insight. Anyway, thank you for, it's just like a great therapy session almost. So what was I going to ask you? You talked about a bottom. So you hit a bottom. When was this bottom that you hit?
The bottom I hit when I realized that my mother was a narcissist, and I didn't know. I didn't figure it out until I was like 45 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. But here's the good thing. Narcissism is becoming more wide known. Like people are talking about it. There's a lot of information out there about it. And so I think the more people know about it, the more people can like see like how it plays out, relate to their own experiences. And it's not about walking around in the world being afraid of narcissists. It's about like, what is it in me that is attracting these people to come into my world? Because clearly, anybody who has self-love and self-respect and self-awareness and security in themselves and trust in themselves, they're going to see through the facade. They're going to see the smoke and mirrors. They're going to recognize the red flags, and they're going to end that relationship as soon as possible with the least amount of damage and not stay in it for years, months, years, decades.
I drug it on for a year. Looking back on it, I'm like, what was it? Anyway, go on. Hey, let me ask you a question. So, um, you wrote a book, right? We've got a book out there. It's called Mother Medusa, and weaving myth, ritual, and magic into healing from a narcissistic upbringing. And so there's definite before and afters for you. There's like, oh my gosh, I'm in a narcissistic upbringing. I've got these tendencies as a result of that that are maybe not helping me live that fully actualized life or authentically, or wonky emotions. Maybe that's another way to say it, but there's a definite distinct before and after.
Yeah,
Right? Would I be saying that correctly?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And so your book gets a little bit into the before and then the after, or
Yeah. So the book is well, it's a story about my journey,
okay.
and how I started my journey, the realization I had about my mother, connecting a lot of dots, the grief and the pain of recognizing that I could no longer have a relationship with my mother, that it was really that
Mm,
toxic. Um, that was a kick in the gut.
mm,
It's like when you're in a abusive relationship with a intimate partner, everybody's going to jump up and say, break up with them, end the relationship. But what if it's your parent?
yeah.
It's a totally different attachment. It's primal, it's biological, and it's not easy to do. And
Mm,
sometimes it needs to be done. Not
mm,
always, but in my case it did. And that was a really hard place to be for quite a while. There was
mm,
a lot of grief and pain to work through. There was a lot of
mm,
anger, there was a lot of sadness, and through that whole process there was a lot of fear. Like, like if I don't have this person in my life, will I be able to like survive? Because that's the way children are wired. It doesn't matter how old you are. There's always a part of you that wants to need your parents.
yeah. So what were like before book or before and you already touched on it a little bit, but the mindset, your emotional state, like before you have the clarity that I've got some work to do to heal through this narcissistic upbringing. What are like the key red flags, or I don't know if red flags is the right word, but like uh, environmental proof, or I don't know, what am I trying to say, circumstances in your life as a result of hanging out in this narcissistic damaged spot. So are you like frustrated with relationships with men up to this point, or you can't find fulfillment at work, or what are the main, I guess, triggers? Or am I asking that right? Or
Yeah, I think I know what you're asking. I think what was going on in my life that was evidence that
yeah,
I wasn't well.
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't well. And it's interesting. And I thank you for asking that, because there's a lot of things that were going on for me that I didn't connect to the trauma that I experienced in my childhood. And we hear about this, but again, I think people who grow up with it being normal normalize it.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that
It's
happened all the time, no big deal. Well, actually it actually was a big deal. And if you look at your life and the way you've been living it, and are you living the life of your dreams? If you're not, there's probably something there related to that. So I had a number of dysfunctional love relationships in my life. I recognized, I had an unhealthy attachment to other people. I needed other people to tell me I was okay. I was very codependent. I was very, interested and absorbed in other people's lives. Meanwhile, I was disconnected from myself and my own life. I didn't have hobbies. I had the hobbies that, the people that were most important to me had, because it was important to them. Like, I didn't even have an identity. I was just running around trying to find somebody to love me, because I didn't get that growing up. And it was a deep, deep emotional wound. And that's how I gave my power away. I would say yes when I really wanted to say no.
Oh, sorry. Oh, well, I was going to say, so a simple example of that would be like, hey, let's go to this function. And you're like, okay, when really maybe you didn't want to go, or
Yes.
yeah. Or you can even say stand up for yourself perhaps too sometimes.
Yep.
Or
Stand up for myself. I struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. That was another way that I would hide from my feelings. I'd bury my pain. I like pretty much anything you could get addicted to. There were times when I would like overindulge in that, and in those things, like I was a workaholic. I would work all the time so that I didn't even have time to like feel things or even really authentically connect with other people, because I was just so busy.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I have some parallels in my journey. I think like finding that self-love of who I am, what do I like, and then be willing to be like, this is what I like, and that's okay. And for me, a lot of that shift was like, for a while I was like, take me or leave me, with this arrogance, right? And then and then I had to shift from that at some point, right? I had to be like, take me or leave me, because I'm amazing and so are you, or you know what I mean? Versus, I don't know if that resonates at all, but thank you for listening again. So did you have a final failed relationship that shined a spotlight on this, where you're like, I just can't live like this anymore, and you stumble across like a mentor or a coach or an angel, or what who's there's like the Melody, what's her name, she does
Melody Beatty.
yeah, Melody Beatty, or like, what, tell me, what's the part of the story where you're like, oh no, or yeah, there we go, thank you, yeah,
The moment.
yeah,
The magical moment. Okay. And thanks for asking. And I love telling this story, and I might get emotional, but because it was an emotional, it was a spiritual experience. And I do believe this work is spiritual work, because we are disconnected spiritually when we're disconnected from ourselves, when we're disconnected from who we are. And so where I was at my life, my second marriage was falling apart. I had been sober a year. I no longer resonated with my community, my group of people that I had around me for years, and so I used to play drums. I used to be a rock and roll, drummer. I played in several bands. I used to play bars. I used to book shows. I had a radio show. I was very involved in the local music community. But as many people know or can guess, if you watch VH1, like the band always breaks up because of alcohol and drug stuff. And that was just very prevalent in.
Hey, you just dated us. VH1, what?
Right. Behind the music.
Yeah. Okay, I watched it. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, that was where I was in my life. And so I got sober, and it had been a year, and I'm like, this doesn't resonate with me anymore. I want better friends. I want a different life. I'm meant for bigger things. I want to expand and grow, but I don't even know what that looks like. So I had begun to do a morning ritual, meditation, quiet time, reflecting, going deep within, listening, asking myself, like, what's the next step? What's the next step? And it wasn't something that I had done ever before. This was a new practice for me. But at some point, I started to hear an answer to some questions. And it was very persistent. And what it said to me was, it's time to go and face your mother. And I thought, I don't want to do that.
Anything with that.
I don't want to do that. Really? Why? Really? And I ignored it for a while, but it was very persistent. So finally I said, okay, fine, I'll go. I don't know why. I don't know what. I'm just going to go because clearly that's what I'm hearing. I'm going to trust this. And so I went on a visit. And within the first 24 hours, I started seeing her behavior from a different perspective, from a different lens. And I actually Googled it at the time. I was like, people who always turn the conversation back to themselves, because I had literally been sitting there listening to her talk about how great she was for 45 minutes. And I was like, why does she keep doing this? And narcissism came up. And then I'm like, oh, look, there's a checklist. Check, 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 check. And suddenly it all made sense. It was the biggest aha moment of my life. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a name for this. I'm not crazy. There's a reason why every time I spend time with this person, I go into a spin for days or weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the
Wow.
next thing I thought, well, this person raised me. What did being raised by this type of person do to me? And I'm like, oh, that's why I have low self-esteem. That's why I get in relationships with unhealthy people. That's why I play small and I don't speak up. And I'm afraid to speak up. I'm afraid to say what I want or what I need. That's why I hide. I don't put myself out there. I don't ask for a promotion. I don't go for the new job. I don't think I'm good enough for the better boyfriend or whatever it was. This is why I had trouble with drugs and alcohol my whole life. This is why I feel responsible for other people's feelings. This is why I don't have boundaries, because this person never allowed me to have boundaries. I was never taught even like it wasn't okay to have boundaries. So of course, in my adult life, I don't have boundaries with people, and I'm wandering. I'm like, why is everybody walking all over me? It sounds simple, but for somebody, like I said, who's raised that is normal, you don't think about it. You don't recognize it until you recognize it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And there's only one thing that can be done.
Yeah.
You can't change other people. The only thing you can do is change yourself. And so that's what I decided to do.
Do you remember where the source of the checklist?
I don't, but you could Google it right now.
Yeah.
Checklist for narcissistic traits. You'll get a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
But they're all very similar.
Yeah. So you have this moment, and I like the accountability part too, that you hinted to or said. It's like, wait a minute, I can't change the other person. I've got to change me. And now I have to take accountability because I know, right? If I heard you say that, right, you're like, the veil has been lifted. Ignorance is no longer bliss. Like, wait a minute. Okay, now something can be done. So that's a cool spot to be. I guess it's sort of painful on one hand, but freeing on the other. By the way, everybody listening and watching, hello, thank you. You can go to fullvenusrising.com and you can see Pi's book, Mother Medusa, and she tells more about this story and all that stuff. So go there. And then also you can always book a call. So if you want to hear more and this is resonating and you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. Yeah, wait a minute. And the light bulb's going off. Go to Full Venus Rising. I'm looking over here, fullvenusrising.com. You can go to the work with me, click on that, and then you can book a call, and you've got a 6-month program and all these sorts of things. And so you have this moment, and do you have a vision at this point of how your life can be? Right? You're like, wait a minute, it's, or I got to change, whatever. And then does like this new vision flash in front of you, or are you like, oh gosh, I guess I better, start trudging along? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. The vision of my future and what my life could be. It wasn't actually a vision. It was more like, it was like a knowing that step would come once I started. So for me, where I was at that moment was, like I said, I was in the shock. I was in the shock of like, oh my gosh, this was my life. This is my life right now. My life has played out because of everything that happened in my past. And what the hell happened? There were years of my childhood I couldn't remember. They were just blocked out. So and there was that grief there. So I needed to work through that first. Then I needed to learn how to manage my emotional well-being. And once I learned how to manage my emotional well-being, I was able to start seeing what was possible for my life. And then I made the big step of investing in myself, which was a worthiness block that was a big thing for me to overcome, was to invest in my first coach. To spend a big chunk of money. It wasn't big, but for me it was big. A big chunk of money on me because I was worth it.
Well, I was just going to say, especially for someone who's not used to investing in themselves like that. I remember I had this moment 5, 6, 7 years ago by now where there's this idea of investing in yourself, and then I would also hear, it's like this act of self-love, right? And I went to what's called the Hoffman process. Have you heard of the Hoffman process?
No, I haven't.
It was like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, something like that. But it was an investment in myself. And there was a lot of this, how to, sort out some of the rough edges. One of those things. What am I trying to say? Doesn't matter. In AA, in 12-step vernacular, it would be like 6 and 7 steps. Like how do we react due to the way we were brought up? Kind of like what you're talking about.
Right.
There's like a lot of what this focused on was I'm reacting to circumstances due to like this parental stuff, and not to place judgment on it, but just to be aware of it. Be like, oh, wait a minute, like there's this stuff over here, therefore I'm reacting like this, or not reacting, right? But anyway, I invested in that program, and it was very transformational. I was like, oh, sort of that light bulb came on. I was like, oh, that was like an act of self-love, investing that money in myself. Of what you're talking about, that was the purpose of that riff. Thank you.
But I totally agree. It is an act of self-love. And it's like we are always, in a sense, investing in ourselves all the time, whether we're consciously choosing how we do that or not. If we're investing our time and we're being influenced by people or circumstances that are not healthy, that is like, that's how we're being influenced. So we can go through spurts where we're investing in ourselves in a positive way, or maybe we're even investing in ourselves in a negative way.
Love that.
Yeah. And
What a
so,
great way to say that, right? Like how, what a great, like we're investing in ourselves. I love that. Thank you for that. We are investing in ourselves no matter what. Is it going to be positive or negative? What's my choice today in this moment? It's
yeah.
beautiful. What a great
Yeah.
way to think about that. You invest in your first coach. Who's that? If you don't mind me asking.
My first coach that I invested in, well, actually, the first program I invested in was a transformational leadership program because
Oh,
I knew that was the next step for me because I had figured out how to handle my triggers. I had figured out how to manage my emotional well-being, and I'm like, okay, so, and I'd had some practice and good like proof of concept, so to speak. Like it was evident that I was navigating my world in a better way. And I knew that I needed to be challenged even more. And so I enrolled in a leadership program, which
mm,
really like up leveled my personal growth and development, like rocket
yeah,
ship, huge. And talk about breaking through barriers and limiting beliefs and stories and
yeah,
really stepping into my authentic self.
yeah.
That was transformational. And then, I and so I that's when I started, then I hired a business coach and
Okay.
and then I started on my way. And my goal when I started was I want to make $10,000 a month. Like that's my first big goal
Yeah.
for my business. But my mission is that I'm helping people change their lives, that they are getting evidence in their lives that they're doing the same for themselves, managing their emotions, managing their triggers, setting boundaries, getting in touch with themselves, listening to their intuition, trusting themselves, opening their hearts, taking measured risks, and seeing evidence in their lives that they're moving in the direction they want to go. And that's happening for my clients. So not only do I know that, from the financial and accounting aspect that I'm successful because I've reached, my first big milestone, but also my clients are reaching their milestones.
Love it. So we have and you have a great testimonial here from Kim, who took your program, have a before and after. So it's awesome. You're impacting people's lives. You have some financial validation as well, which is amazing. Again, anybody go to fullvenusrising.com. The link is in the show notes. Click on book a free call, get on the phone with Pi, and you'll figure out, is it a good fit? Can you help someone get from A to B and get break through some self-limiting beliefs, like get a new vision for their life, new ideas of success and self-love. And it sounds like all this great stuff. And quick, I want to say as well, on the business side of things, tell me, we've got a 3-year journey, right? And we've got this arc of entrepreneurship. And what's like your number one point within your journey where you're like, I can't do this anymore, but then you had the breakthrough to the next level? Does that tell me about that?
Yeah. I would say that was imposter syndrome
Mm,
for me. That was probably my biggest breakthrough, along with putting myself out to the world. Um, so starting my journey, like I wrote my book. That was putting my story out there. That was a big scary thing for me. And then building a website and then like getting my message out to the world, and the imposter syndrome stuff that would come up, like who's going to want to listen to me, and who am I to say that I'm here at this place right now and that I can help other people, and who am I to who am I to get on the phone with somebody and have a conversation and, like figure out like how I can help them. So the imposter syndrome, and here's where coaching is so valuable. Like if you're starting a business, like find a mentor that has a business who can kind of help you like navigate the waters, because I didn't know how to do that. And thank goodness I hired an amazing coach. And she said to me, she's like, Pi, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out. She's like, think about it this way. You're a third grader. To the first graders and second graders, you're like God, like you got it all. Like they want to learn from you.
Yeah.
Just, and it's like, and next year you'll be a fourth grader, and the next year you'll be a fifth grader. But right now, you're okay where you're at right now. You know enough right now to help the people who were just a little bit behind you. And when she said that to me and I thought about that, I'm like, yeah, I could help people where I was a year ago. I know what that's like. I'm still very connected to that. And, I can share with them what I learned and what worked for me. And so that helped me to get over that.
Love that. Thank you for that. What's your favorite way right now that you're putting yourself out there or generating leads? I hate to use that term, or finding, how are people that want your help finding you? Or how are you doing that? What's your favorite way to do that right now?
Well, I had been doing my own interview series, and I did 3 of them. And it was called Trusting After Trauma, a Trusting After Trauma online summit series. So, and I've interviewed over 70 experts on narcissistic abuse, and, through collaboration with other people, we all, grew our leads and our list size together. This year, I'm focused on being featured on 100 podcasts, because I really believe that there's an element of what I do that can apply to so many different areas. It can apply to business. It can apply to personal relationships. It can apply to your own personal journey. Like there's so much of my journey that's interwoven and touches so many other parts of my life that there's value there to share. And if I'm speaking to you right now, like I've done what I came to do. Like if I just reach one person on your podcast, Mischa, it's like, like let's have a conversation about where you're at in your life, in your journey, what it is that you really want. And, if there's a way that I can help you get there.
Yeah, it's good. Did you email me a one sheet? Do you have a one sheet?
I do.
You did. I was like, oh my God, you emailed me a one sheet. Being selfish, and I was like, I know she emailed me something. Anyway, I apologize. Bad hosting. Oh my gosh. All right. I had another question for you. Thank you for that. Do you, as you're thinking of putting yourself out there onto podcasts, any doubt of like what I'm going to say, or you're like, let's just throw caution to the wind, or you have that one sheet, which is awesome. I remember seeing it now. It was actually very topical. And I'm like, man, I wish that I had that in front of me. But go ahead, answer that question.
So, I mean, I'm happy, I'm happy with going with a specific topic if that's what people want to talk about. But I'm open to just having conversations with people. I really, like for me, especially now where I'm at in my entrepreneurial journey, for me, it's not so much about all of the ways to do business. For me right now, I'm really feeling that it's about connecting. It's about connecting on a human level, from a heart-centered place. So I'm open to this conversation with you right now. You asking me about my journey, about narcissism, about my business. I just appreciate the opportunity to connect with you and to share.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I know we're on a time deadline here. So is there something that you were hoping to say or hoping to be asked, or a message that you wanted to convey that we didn't cover? Like,
just what just came to mind, and thinking about your audience and the people that that you're out in the world speaking to. If you want to start your own business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to have your own business, if you want to be in charge of, your life and, your income, and get your message and your purpose out to the world, I would say, don't let the lies of the past, what people have told you in the past, stop you from following your dreams, because you can overcome those barriers, and maybe it means working with somebody through those things, those obstacles, those challenges that you see as a pattern that keep coming up, that keep you stuck. You can work through those, and you can succeed. And I'm living proof of that. I never in a million years thought that I would be where I'm at today. And it's through this journey of self-actualization, through entrepreneurship, that I've come here. The work that I've done on myself, personal work, but also, the journey of being an entrepreneur, which brings up all kinds of stuff that I get to work through, and it still brings up stuff. I'm still working through things that come up, but I have support now. I have a new community. I have people I can reach out to. I have connections, and I think that also probably just ties into, like, what I was saying before about where I'm at in my business journey right now. I want to just connect with more people.
Yeah, I love that. And sort of let the universe, I don't know if provides the right word, but just like, yeah, let's put ourselves out there and see the logical step and what connections are made, and sort of that co-creation. Yeah.
Yeah, trusting the process, and
Yeah.
and trusting ourselves, trusting your intuition. I'm leaning into trusting myself a whole lot more this year, which is, like, I've not been doing it a long time. So it's like, okay, this is my next growth spurt, is really leaning in and trusting myself. If my inner guidance is saying connection, not busy doing, checking off boxes, then that's what it's time to do.
I love that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful interview.
Yes, indeed. Pi, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to do a quick reminder to everybody. FullVenusRising.com. You can book a free consultation with Pi to see if you're a good fit for her, because she knows how to tell if you are ready to be helped. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and it's an opportunity for you to get to know more me, if I'm a good fit for you, right?
Yeah.
And you can also download a free digital copy of my book. If you want to read my book, you can do it absolutely free just by signing up on the website.
Fantastic. And let's end there. I know you got to go. We're going to say goodbye offline. And thank you for jumping on the show.
Thank you, Mischa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.